Hello everyone, I'm Jason Duff with Earl of Fife Games, and this video is a system overview of Heroes and Hardships, the universal role-playing game system. Also included in this video is our showcase for our Foundry module and compendium for the Heroes and Hardships system and core rulebook. You can see this system on the screen here. On the screen, we have that system. It is currently being hosted by the Forge here. In this video, I will go over the basics of the system, including how we do conflict resolution, that's any kind of skill checks and whatnot, very basics. Then we're going to go into combat. We're going to do a little bit of magic and some other odds and ends with the system to show you. This will not be a super in-depth tutorial of each part of the system, but instead an overview so you get an idea of how the system works in several different areas of the game. Also, in the process of this, I will be explaining how the Foundry module and system works, and we will show off some of that here. The module is currently, I would say, about 80% finished, with the system itself closer to 90% finished, although there are some things from the core rulebook that will be in the core rulebook module itself that need to be coded in the overall system as well. So if you look here, you can see that I have set up a general combat map, but that is not important for the time being. But we will talk about different areas of both the system and the Foundry module as we go along. You can, as of the time of this recording, which is in mid-October 2025, you can download the current Heroes and Hardships system on Foundry today. And so you should get that if you want and play around with the actual system itself to get a feel for how it works. The best way to learn anything, in my opinion, is to get your hands on it and work with it yourself. So you can do that. Like I said before, you can get it through Foundry or you can get it through the Forge. And you should be able to install it and start your own games, or just get it to play around with the system itself. That being said, I would like to give you a little information about the Foundry system as it is today. We have been working on this system for well over a year. And when we began development, Foundry was on Foundry 12. So this system is still on Foundry 12 and will be developed fully for Foundry Edition 12. And in the future, after it is completed for 12, we will look at possibilities for upgrading it to 13 or 14 when it is available. So that is the goal for us, is to finish it on 12 first and then make it available for newer versions of Foundry which are coming. And so there's no reason you can't play it on Foundry 12 today, and so you should be able to do that quite easily. Earlier I explained that we were not 100% finished with the system, and a couple things that I wanted to mention, that we are still working on that you will not see here, but will be available when the Foundry compendium and system are given to you for those who back it or buy it. One thing is the Charactermancer. We will have a character creation tool within the system to help you create your characters. And so that should be quite a bit of a help for people who are using Foundry and want to create their characters with Foundry. So that is a very big part of the Foundry system that is still not quite developed, but will be developed soon. Other things, mostly for the system side, there are very few things that we need to add other than the Charactermancer. Mostly it is related to specific things in the system that are a little bit more nuanced than the overall workings of the system and how the Heroes and Hardships works. So those things are kind of corner cases that need to be built in. And as I was saying earlier about the actual core rulebook module, there are some things like abilities, ancestry traits, things like that, weapon qualities, and so on and so forth, that hasn't quite been coded into the system, or just simply data entry for some of those items have not been completed yet. And that will be one of our priorities after this campaign ends. And over the winter of 2025, that will all be finished. And so by early in 2026, that should all be resolved and put into backers and customers' hands so that they can get started and playing Heroes and Hardships on Foundry completely. Obviously, you can do that now. You can definitely play Heroes and Hardships on Foundry as it is today. I have play tested this quite a bit, and it is fully functional for everyone, for every game you might want. However, some of the quality of life additions to the system just aren't quite there yet, and we will have them very soon for you to start playing. For those of you that are not Foundry users, please stay with us here. You can still learn a lot about the system, the actual Heroes and Hardships system game by watching this. So I will be describing things about how Heroes and Hardships work, and at the same time about how Foundry implements those. But this should be a useful tool for anyone who is interested in Heroes and Hardships, if they're a Foundry user or not. I do want to make mention that we do have a character sheet on Roll20 as well. It is fairly rudimentary in comparison to Foundry, but it is there if you want to use Roll20 instead of Foundry. It is completely usable. I have played many games on Roll20, and before the Foundry system was created at all, Roll20 was there, and it is up, and you can choose it for any game you would want in Roll20 if Roll20 is your VTT of choice. So before we get started with character creation, I want to briefly explain the core concepts of Heroes and Hardships. The core concept of Heroes and Hardships, besides that it's a universal RPG system and how it works mechanically, is that the core resolution mechanic is a roll and keep dice pool system. What do I mean by that? That means that you're going to roll a pool of dice, keep some of those dice, add the total of those dice together, and that's whatever your result is. In some cases, you will compare that to a target number, and if it's above that target number, you will succeed. If it's equals, it succeeds. If it's below, it fails. There are different difficulties in each power level, which will state what the target number is. They are listed so far as like challenging, hard, etc., and it goes up to impossible. So I want you to be able to visualize these dice pools, and you can do that in the character sheet. So let's go into the character sheet of this battle mage here that I have on the screen. We're going to look at his character, this character's attributes and skills, and we're going to compute a roll based on these. So in this system, you combine your attribute score and your skill rank to come up to your total dice pool. Heroes and Hardships only uses a D10. No other dice is ever used in Heroes and Hardships. If there's any possibility of a rounding a result, then it rounds down, but it shouldn't ever happen. So if we look at this battle mage, you can see, and it's probably easiest to look down here. If you look at, he has strength 3 and athletics 1. So that means he's going to roll 4 dice. You keep a number of dice equal to your attribute score. So in this case, he would roll 4 dice, but keep 3. You usually keep the highest. So we're going to roll for athletics here, and we're going to make the roll, and you see the result. And this is good because it shows us something that happens as well. So you can see the result is 1,134,9 for a total of 44. Okay, so how does he get 34 on one die? Well, in this system, when you roll a 10, you roll again. And you keep doing that until you no longer roll a 10. And that is all combined in one die. So here you have, he rolled a 10, 10, 10, and a 4 somehow. So pretty much an amazing roll. He keeps 3 of these dice. So he keeps the 1, he keeps the 34, and he keeps the 9 for a total of 44. You can see that this 1 here is blanked out because you do not keep it, because you only keep the 3. Now, we say, well, what is his difficulty? So his difficulty, his target number, is based on, number 1, what the difficulty of the task is. So if you go back in here, you can see that you can select the difficulty: mundane, challenging, hard, desperate, and impossible, and they all have a different score. So if we pick challenging, which is usually what the main difficulty of most campaigns is going to be, challenging, and we roll, it'll auto calculate if we make it. So you'll see in the roll mod it says difficulty is challenging. 20 is the challenging TN for power level 1. So in this case, it says your base success value, which is basically your roll and any other things that you add to it, which we don't have in this case. But unlike the roll before, this is very different. We have a 9, a 4, and a 3. That's a total of 16. That means he has 4 levels of failure. And so it's that easy to spot that on this system, this module. So it's very helpful for that. You can do things like that. And that's the basic core mechanic of how you make a roll. Of course, it does. There are things that can change your roll, and I'll talk about those in just a moment. However, not only do you roll against a target number, but sometimes you roll against a opposed roll. And that is typical in combat when someone has a defense roll and you both roll and see who is higher. And the degrees of failure or success mean a lot. And so you have those two components for difficulty is usually what you see. You see either a static number, which is usually when you're trying to impact the environment and not actually targeting someone. When you target someone, is usually there is a resisted roll. Not always, but usually. We'll get into that more in combat for that scenario, but a lot of times there is a active roll against you, an opposed roll. That opposed roll, whoever has the higher number succeeds, right? And what you defend with depends on what they do to you, right? Someone who is trying to lie to you, you're going to roll, read person instead of, some sort of combat skill like dodge. Somebody tries to hit you with the action, you might dodge, or you might use whatever weapon skill you are using at the time, like a sword to parry it, things like that. So that is the two main ways that happens. So the two big things that can change a dice pool are what's called benefits and hardships. Benefits is very simple. You're going to get a benefit for something. Either it is an ability you have, an action you take that's going to give you a benefit, something like that. These are always beneficial to you as roller, so it's always going to add one die, not keep it, add it. So if we do the same roll for athletics, before we've rolled 4 and we've kept 3, okay, we're going to do the same roll. And this is a way to do this manually. A lot of the abilities and things like that, this is already worked in. You won't have to do this every time, but if a gym says, hey, you get a benefit for this, and you do it manually, this is how you do it. So you click in 1 in the benefit, and so now your roll is going to have a benefit with it. To make it easy, let's say this is a hard difficulty, and we're going to roll, okay? Same as last time. So let's look at the output here. Roll mod, there's 1 benefit. A hard difficulty is 30, and then you look at the result. You see we rolled 5 dice this time instead of 4, but we only kept 3, right? So that's what we've always been keeping, but we've rolled 2 more, giving ourselves more of a chance to succeed. Unfortunately, our roll total is a 21. The difficulty was a 30. We have 9 degrees of failure, so we failed by 9. So that's how a benefit works, and you can put multiple benefits on a roll. To get to a very important but a little bit into the weeds rule is that you can never roll more than double what you keep. And there's ways to convert those dice if that happens. And this system does it automatically, and it's a great time saver. Okay? The next thing is a hardship. Hardship clearly is something that is a penalty to you, and there's multiple ways you can get these hardships. The main one is taking a wound hardship. So if you take a wound in combat, you have one of these wound hardships typically. And what they do is you roll a d10, and that d10 subtracts from your total. Or if you want to say it, it adds to your difficulty. So let's go back and let's do this roll again. Okay, all this is cleared. We're going to give ourselves 1 hardship. Okay. So we have 1 hardship now. So now we're going to roll, and you'll see how it differs. Okay, so you see we rolled 4 dice here, as we have no benefits. Our total was what? It was 14. Okay, now our hardship die is a d10 as well, and you subtract that hardship dice from your roll. So we rolled a 14, the hardship subtracts 1 for a total of 13. So then you would take that 13 and compare it to whatever your difficulty is. So let's do it one more time. So let's do it here, and if you have a hardship that's not auto set in the system, many of them will be, and let's do a difficulty challenging. Okay, so we're going to do difficulty challenging again. We're going to roll again. So we see something here. So it shows us in the roll mads we have 1 hardship with a challenging, so that's a 20. We rolled a 9, 7, and a 3 and a 4. We kept a 9, 7, and a 4 for a total of 20. Then you subtract the hardship of 3, and the challenging difficulty of 20. So after all that, we have a -3. So that is 3 degrees of failure. He's not rolling very well here. So you can see this is the core mechanic of setting dice pools and rolling dice pools and altering those dice pools as well. There are also times when your result can be changed by a fixed amount. So you might have a +3 to a roll or a -3 to a roll, depending on what it is. And that's just very simple. Whatever your total is, you subtract or add whatever that modifier is. And that's called a post-roll modifier, or a pre-roll modifier, actually. It's just it's a flat modifier to your roll. Okay? And that's how, but updating the dice pools with benefits, hardships, and set modifiers work. So what I would like to go into now is character creation and what makes up a character in Heroes and Hardships. In this situation, we're going to come up here to the actor tab in Heroes and Hardships, and then we're going to create an actor, and we're just going to call it Jason 2. I already have one there for Jason. We can delete that. That's not necessary right now. So Jason 2, we have Jason 2, and you can see that it opens to the combat tab, which is probably not what we want to look at right now. We're going to flip over to attributes and skills. When you create a character in Heroes and Hardships, the first thing that you're going to want to know is what is the power level of the game. The GM will tell you what that power level is, and based on that power level, you will have a certain amount of attribute points, or your roll table will be different for your attributes. In Heroes and Hardships, you can both roll for your character's attributes, or you can get a amount of points and apply them to where you want. That's completely up to you. It is advised not to mix them, meaning if you have one character in the game that's going to pick, you shouldn't have another character that's going to roll. Just what happens is you have very different abilities for the or just competency for the two different characters. One, usually the one that rolls could either be way higher or way lower. Regardless, that's an initial choice you have, and the GM is likely to tell you which one they want to do first. Back to power level. So what is a power level? So a power level is kind of what you would assume it is. A power level 1 is your lower power bases, and I usually conflate these two, like gritty games with low magic, low competency, where your player characters are no better than a normal person would be typically. That doesn't mean that you can't have magic. It just means your magic is probably not going to be as powerful. Power level 2 is kind of in the middle. I usually equate this with the D&D level of fantasy superhero type of competency, and something similar for sci-fi. So that would be that power level 2. Your abilities are better, you have more points to spend, etc. Power level 3 is your galactic superheroes, super over-the-top cinematic settings, and so forth and so on. Now you can see here we have all the abilities, or I'm sorry, the attributes that are required. Okay, so this is broken up into 4 categories: physical, mental, social, and fate. Physical has strength, agility, dexterity, endurance. Mental has intelligence, knowledge, senses, and will. Social has presence, empathy, communications, and influence. And fate has fate. What is fate? Fate is an optional attribute. All the other attributes you have to have. It's an optional attribute that goes with magic quite a bit. It also, in characters that do not have magic, it can be used as a luck kind of, a luck or a destiny sort of inspiration, however the GM wants to frame it, that is what it would be. And you can spend these fate points or burn them to help your character in some way, depending on if you burn or spend. Spends come back, burns do not come back. It is required for if you have magic or superpowers, because it influences things like how many spells you can have and surges, which we'll get into more of that in the magic section of this tutorial. But just know that fate is optional, and it is up to the GM if they're going to use fate or not. Even if they use fate, you do not need to take a attribute point in fate. You can have it be 0 if you would like. That being said, let's say we're doing a power level 1 character. Here you see I select the power level here. Before I go on, actually, I do want to mention that in the future we are planning to have a character mancer, and you won't have to do these character creations by hand. Right now you do, but by the time the module and the system gets updated, by the time we're sending out rewards for the Foundry module, this will be finished. We'll have the character mancer done, and it will guide you through character creation. But for now, what you have here is doing it manually. So, and that's fine. You can always do it manually. It's no big deal. So for power level 1, let's just, for the sake of ease, let's say we're using the pick method. That means we're going to allocate points to every attribute that we have, and we do that however we would like. There are some rules to follow at all power levels. So power level 1, the rule is the maximum attribute score is a 4. You may only have 2 attributes at 4, and every attribute except fate must have at least 1 point in it. So every attribute must have at least 1 except fate. That can remain 0. So at power level 1, we get 30 attribute points to spend. Right off the bat, 12 are spent on our 1s in all the attributes, so we know we have 18 to spend across those 12 attributes, 13 if you count fate. So now you kind of decide what kind of character you want to be, right? So everything is kind of in your hands. You can see here what skills derive from which attributes, and we went over earlier how the dice pools are formed. You add your skill rank to your attribute rank, and that is the amount of dice you actually roll. So we have 30 attribute points to spend. We already have 12 that have been spent from the 1s on all the current attributes, so we have 18 left. So we're going to create a character with those 18 points. We're going to assume that we are using the fate attribute, so I'll go ahead and give him 3 in fate. Alright, so you can see that what I'm doing on the system here is just clicking this top portion, which allows you to update your attribute and any skills underneath that. So we give 3 fate for now. It tracks this up here, so 4, 4, 4, and 3. So that tells us how many attribute points each category is using. Okay, so that's 15 total. And we're going to look for what else we're going to do. So let's just make him a wizard of some sort, just to make it easy. So we go into mental, and we're going to go down to, let's do will, and we'll give him a 4 in will. So that will increase that. We'll give him a 3 in knowledge, and then see where we're at. So we have 4, 9, 4, 3, so 13, 17, 20, so we have 10 left. Let's go here. Let's give him a 3 in intelligence, and so that's going to pop that up. So now we have 4, 11, 4, 3, so that's 15, 19, 22, so we have 8 left. Let's say that he is a petty lord of some sort, as well as a wizard. So we'll give him 3 influence. So that's going to increase it by 2. So 4, 11, that's 15, 21, and 24. 6 left. Let's say that he can cast more than harness spells, which is what that was set for. Let's set him up for doing these sort of spells too. So are the shape spells for later. So it's very important to know kind of what your skills are going to do, because you're kind of planning on the future, right? So we have 4 for presence. Okay, that takes that up to 9. So 4, 15, that is 24, 27, 3 more. So we'll go into physical and just give him 3 endurance and maybe 2 agility. Okay, so that's 7, 18, 27, 30. So now we've spent all our attribute points. And to go, just to go again, here we have 7. So it says that physical says, if you look at the helper, it says this section shows the point count for each stage of character creation, but ignores 2-for-1 trades. Don't worry about that right now, but we're going to look here. So 1 strength, 3 agility, 1 dex, and 3 endurance. That's 1, 3, 4, 7. And 7 there. So that's how it's going to add up all these. And now we have 30 attribute points. So that's how you assign your attribute points in this method of character creation, which is called the pick method. So the next thing in character creation that you need to do is select your skill ranks and purchase those. The amount of attribute score that you have purchased become your skill points for how many of those you get. So here we have 7, 11, 9, and 3. That means you have 7 skill points to spend in physical, 11 in mental, 9 in social, and 3 in fate. There are some other rules that go along with this, but unless we meet one of those rules, I'm not going to talk about it, just to keep this simple. But we are going to, probably pretty quickly. So let's say we want to make this person a extremely good sorcerer. So we would come into mental, and we have 11 points. Okay, so we have 11 to spend on skill ranks. So the first thing I would do is select 4 harness. So one thing to know is that your skill ranks can never exceed your attribute score points. So we have 4 will. We can never have harness at 5 when there's 4 will. Can't do it. So we go up to the maximum. However, when you do the maximum, it does cost more. It's going to cost you 1 additional point to when you reach your maximum. So putting harness at 4 will cost us 5 skill points instead of actually 4. So that's one thing that happens when you increase the skill rank to match your attribute score. So we're going to give 2 to fortitude while I'm in here. And you can see this is automatically keeping track of it right here. So skill points 7. So we know we've spent 7. So we got to keep looking. Okay, so let's do, he's pretty good at lore. That brings us up to 9. We have 2 left that we can take. And we are at, let's just do 1 in Arcana and 1 at Healing, and that'll bring us up to match. So that's what you're looking for, your skill points to equal your attribute points. This is your ability points, which we'll get to in a moment. So for physical, I'll come into physical and grab some things here. So in agility, let's do 1 dodge and 1 stealth. That puts a 2 of 7. And then endurance, let's do 2 resilience and 2 stamina and 1 recovery. That puts us at 7 That equals out to 7. So now we're at 7. So that is all we can spend in there. Okay. Into social we go. We have 9 to spend. Let's pull it over here. We want to do shape. Shape is another magical skill. As you can see, we're back up to 5 skill points instead of 4. So we have 4 more to spend. We'll pick something under his influence. Let's just do 1, 1, 1. That puts us up to 8 of 9, so we need 1 more. Let's just pump status up to 2. Okay, so that puts us at 9. Okay. All right, so the last is fate. Okay, so fate is an interesting one. We're going to spend 2 of our skill points, 2 of our 3, and we have to leave the next one blank. Because if I go to 3 here, this is an interesting rule of fate. It spends more than we have. Okay, so you can never really have your focus equal to your fate unless you are taking from other pools, which you can do at a cost of, it costs double. Just going from there, so now we have 2 here. So one of the rules is this fate attribute, you can take the extra skill point and put it into any category you want as if it was a part of that category. So let's just say, let's do knowledge and let's do craft. Okay, so that takes care of that. Okay, so that would be your skill points, all spent. A couple, I mentioned this, but if I would take from anywhere else, say I took physical and I didn't need all this physical. So let's go and just redo the physical, just to kind of show how this works. So I don't want to do any physical skills, let's say. So I'm backing up here. Or let's just make it easy. Let's do 1, 2, 2 and 2. Okay, so I have 2 left. Okay, so perfect. So what am I going to do? I really want to spend it elsewhere. Okay, so I really want another rank in the mental, and because abilities might come out of the mental pool. So let's say I want something out of here. I want to do sciences. So I do 1 for sciences using the points out of this pool. Now what to know is that when I do this, I need 2 from another pool to make 1 skill rank. So I would spend both these 2 extra here and spend it into mental for 1 rank. So it's a 2 for 1. Okay, and that is how that works. So now we look at this column here, the first column. This is ability points. Okay, so ability points allow us to purchase essentially abilities, which you might know them something as like a feats or a talent type of thing that we get to purchase. And there's a huge list of these abilities throughout Heroes and Hardships for you to select from. We also use these points to select ancestry traits, which are something a little different than abilities. They work in similar ways, but they're based on your specific ancestry. And ancestry is elf, human, dwarf, and so on and so forth. We aren't going to do ancestry traits to keep it simple. They work essentially the exact same as abilities, only each rank of those ancestry traits costs 6 no matter what. So they're a little different than the abilities in the way they're actually made up, but they actually are purchased in a very similar manner. Now we need to purchase abilities. We purchase abilities with the points in this ability points pool right here. You would notice that some are different than this, right? This middle one. Now you get these from what your skill ranks are. So this is what we use to purchase. However, if you ever meet, like in this case, where your skill rank is equal to your attribute, what happens is you're spending more to do that. So even though you have 4 ranks here, you have spent more. You spent 5 for that. So that's actually noticed here. So it's actually 8. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's actually your ranks, because this can slowly get whittled down. And that's in the case here as well. Here we have physical, and we used 2 of our skill ranks, or skill points into mental. So now we only have 5 actual ability points in physical to use, instead of what we would have had 7 if we actually put them in something under physical. And that also actually increases our mental. So it doesn't increase it as much as it decreases it on this side, but now we have 12 instead of what we would have had before. Okay, and we did a meet here as well, so that's why it was brought down. Okay, so and also we used our extra from fate into here. That's why we see this 12 instead of 11, right? And so basically 11 to 13, so that equates to 1 from physical and 1 from fate coming in here, and then the 12 is because of the equalization, the matching of harness to will. So if we want to count the ranks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 12. And we have 12 here. Okay? So, and social has 8. And fate has 2. So what you're going to do at this point is go and look at your abilities. In the case of a magic user, I usually start with fate first. There are there's a category of these abilities, right? And so a physical ability is going to purchase out of the physical pool, mental is going to purchase out of the mental pool, social out of the social pool, fate out of the fate pool, and then there's general, which anything can be purchased. So, or it can be, I'm sorry, the general category can be purchased with any skill, or any ability point, I should say. So under fate, there's a couple. I'm just going to make it easy. I'm going to do something that's called fated. Now, I'm going to pull them from our compendium. Okay, so this is the core rulebook compendium. It's still a work in progress, so some of these abilities might not be here or might not be coded the way they should be coded. So if I'm looking at these, I look at fated. Fated is on here. I can click open it, and some of them are just going to be text. So this is something that is not going to probably be coded, and it's when you spend a fate point, roll a 1d10 on a 9 or 10. You do not consume a fate point, but still gain the effect. Okay, that's fine. For now, I'm not worried so much about what we're choosing as that we just choose the correct number. So this is abilities and equipment tab, so you can see fated is on here now. So that would be the fate ability points right there. That's all gone now. So we'll just go from right to left. Mental is next. So I would look at another mental. I have 8 to actually, I'm sorry, social. We'll start with social. So social, I have 8 to spend on social. And if I look at something, let's do, there's one really good one that is called authority. But actually, I'm not going to do silly things. Authority would not help us because of how it works. So instead, let's do something else. Let's do something from the general attributes. We can just do something from the general, and what we'll do is we will do skilled. Skilled 1. So we pull that in, and it's going to ask us, now this is a modifier that's going to automatically work. So what skill does is it adds your power level to any roll as a base modifier. So, oh, I'm sorry, this actually is a level 1 bonus set, which I'm not going to get into what bonus sets are, but it is a benefit or a something that is positive to your roll. Okay, so we just have to type in the skill name here. I'm going to do harness. And so that will kick off a harness. We look at that. We do skilled. We can just change this so we know what it is, and we'll do harness here. Okay, and now we have harness. Okay, so what I'm going to do, just to show you how this works, I'm going to make a harness roll. Okay, so scroll down, I'll do harness down here, and you see it's not included here, but when I roll it and I look, you can see that skilled 1 is a part of the roll, and you get a +1 to your roll for that. Okay. So that's how that works. It's a modifier, a coded modifier in the system, and you just point to whatever skill that you're trying to modify in this case, because it can be used for other things. Now, that was a general ability, and it costs 2 points. Okay. So now let's say, well, okay, so I took it as social, so that's 8. So I have 6 left in social if I want to do that. One thing that is out of general are spells. So if I want to add a spell to my character, which I'm going to need spells, I buy those with ability points. Okay, so let's see. The spells are probably not in here yet, but we can look real quick. They're not in a manifestation. So we call them manifestations until they are plugged into either the power hero power system or the superpower system or the magic system. So they're called manifestations, but they become a spell if you are a magic user. So speaking of, he needs in order to cast spells, he needs the magic user ability. So let's go back to the magic user ability. So that's 6. It's a general, so it can come out of his social. And we will go to magic user. Here it is. We pull it over, and it just gives you the information, basically, that this lets you cast spells. Okay. And then if you come over here, you see it is listed under magic user. So that's our social. Okay. Now let's do physical next. Let's get a spell because it gives us 5. Spells come out of the general category, so we can use any ability point to purchase them. So that would be under manifestations. We'll do, this is a harness. So harness, I'm going to get into this later, but harness is is the governing skill. But this, there are 2 colleges of magic, if you will, that allow harness spells, and one is force and one is cosmos. We'll just do cosmos, and we'll just do energy attack to make it easy. We'll pull over energy attack, and see that does add this magic tab. Okay, we'll go more over this when we get to magic, but suffice it to say, now we have a magic tab with a spell. Okay, so that is physical. Physical leaves 1 left. Okay, so that's going to be a remainder for now, and then mental is 12. One thing to know is abilities are always even cost, so if we have a remainder, I'll tell you what happens to that point. So we would look in the mental abilities and pick something, and I am going to pick something. Let's see. Okay, we'll do magical studies, which is a ability. Magical studies. Here's magical studies. Pull it over. That costs 6. It's not important what it does right now, but it costs 6 out of your 12. And then if I want another thing out of there, I have 6 more left to spend. This 12 right here. Just quickly skimming. We will do unbreakable, which is a defense against mental attacks. Okay, so that also costs 6. And that is a modifier that is automatically inputted onto your character sheet. Okay, so we've spent all our ability points now except one for physical. If you ever have a remainder of a non-even ability point, that gets converted into experience, which you can spend after you're done with all your actual character creation. So for PL1, one point is worth 5 XP. So I've just marked that up here for now, and we will come back to it once we're finished. Now we need to purchase abilities. We purchase abilities with the points in this ability points pool right here. You would notice that some are different than this, right? This middle one. Now you get these from what your skill ranks are. So this is what we use to purchase. However, if you ever meet, like in this case, where your skill rank is equal to your attribute, what happens is you're spending more to do that. So even though you have 4 ranks here, you have spent more. You spent 5 for that. So that's actually noticed here. So it's actually 8. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's actually your ranks, because this can slowly get whittled down. And that's in the case here as well. Here we have physical, and we used 2 of our skill ranks, or skill points into mental. So now we only have 5 actual ability points in physical to use, instead of what we would have had 7 if we actually put them in something under physical. And that also actually increases our mental. So it doesn't increase it as much as it decreases it on this side, but now we have 12 instead of what we would have had before. Okay, and we did a meet here as well, so that's why it was brought down. Okay, so, and also we used our extra from fate into here. That's why we see this 12 instead of 11, right? And so basically 11 to 13, so that equates to 1 from physical and 1 from fate coming in here, and then the 12 is because of the equalization, the matching of harness to will. So if we want to count the ranks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 12. And we have 12 here. Okay? So, and social has 8. And fate has 2. So what you're going to do at this point is go and look at your abilities. In the case of a magic user, I usually start with fate first. There are there's a category of these abilities, right? And so a physical ability is going to purchase out of the physical pool, mental is going to purchase out of the mental pool, social out of the social pool, fate out of the fate pool, and then there's general, which anything can be purchased. So, or it can be, the general category can be purchased with any skill, or any ability point, I should say. So under fate, there's a couple. I'm just going to make it easy. I'm going to do something that's called fated. Now, I'm going to pull them from our compendium. Okay, so this is the core rulebook compendium. It's still a work in progress, so some of these abilities might not be here or might not be coded the way they should be coded. So if I'm looking at these, I look at fated. Fated is on here. I can click open it, and some of them are just going to be text. So this is something that is not going to probably be coded, and it's when you spend a fate point, roll a 1d10 on a 9 or 10. You do not consume a fate point, but still gain the effect. Okay, that's fine. For now, I'm not worried so much about what we're choosing as that we just choose the correct number. So this is Abilities and Equipment tab, so you can see Fated is on here now. So that would be the Fate ability points right there. That's all gone now. So we'll just go from right to left. Mental is next. So I would look at another mental. I have 8 to actually, I'm sorry, social. We'll start with social. So social, I have 8 to spend on social. And if I look at something, let's do, there's one really good one that is called authority. But actually, I'm not going to do silly things. Authority would not help us because of how it works. So instead, let's do something else. Let's do something from the general attributes. We can just do something from the general, and what we'll do is we will do skilled. Skilled 1. So we pull that in, and it's going to ask us, now this is a modifier that's going to automatically work. So what skill does is it adds your power level to any roll as a base modifier. So, oh, I'm sorry, this actually is a level 1 bonus set, which I'm not going to get into what bonus sets are, but it is a benefit or a something that is positive to your roll. Okay, so we just have to type in the skill name here. I'm going to do harness. And so that will kick off a harness. We look at that. We do skilled. We can just change this so we know what it is, and we'll do harness here. Okay, and now we have harness. Okay, so what I'm going to do, just to show you how this works, I'm going to make a harness roll. Okay, so scroll down. I'll do harness down here, and you see it's not included here, but when I roll it and I look, you can see that skilled 1 is a part of the roll, and you get a +1 to your roll for that. Okay. So that's how that works. It's a modifier, a coded modifier in the system, and you just point to whatever skill that you're trying to modify in this case, because it can be used for other things. Now, that was a general ability, and it cost 2 points. Okay. So now let's say, well, okay, so I took it as social, so that's 8. So I have 6 left in social if I want to do that. One thing that is out of general are spells. So if I want to add a spell to my character, which I'm going to need spells, I buy those with ability points. Okay, so let's see. The spells are probably not in here yet, but we can look real quick. They're not in a manifestation. So we call them manifestations until they are plugged into either the power hero power system or the superpower system or the magic system. So they're called manifestations, but they become a spell if you are a magic user. So speaking of, he needs in order to cast spells, he needs the magic user ability. So let's go back to the magic user ability. So that's 6. It's a general, so it can come out of his social. And we will go to magic user. Here it is. We pull it over, and it just gives you the information, basically, that this lets you cast spells. Okay. And then if you come over here, you see it is listed under magic user. So that's our social. Okay. Now let's do physical next. Let's get a spell because it gives us 5. Spells come out of the general category, so we can use any ability point to purchase them. So that would be under manifestations. We'll do, this is a harness. So harness, I'm going to get into this later, but harness is the governing skill. But this, there are 2 colleges of magic, if you will, that allow harness spells, and one is force and one is cosmos. We'll just do cosmos, and we'll just do energy attack to make it easy. We'll pull over energy attack, and see that does add this magic tab. Okay, we'll go more over this when we get to magic, but suffice it to say, now we have a magic tab with a spell. Okay. So that is physical. Physical leaves one left, okay? So that's going to be a remainder for now. And then mental is 12. One thing to know is abilities are always even cost. So if we have a remainder, I'll tell you what happens to that point. So we would look in the mental abilities and pick something. And I am going to pick something, let's see. Okay, we'll do magical studies, which is a ability. Magical studies. Here's magical studies. Pull it over. That costs 6. It's not important what it does right now, but it costs 6 out of your 12. And then if I want another thing out of there, I have 6 more left to spend. This 12 right here. Just quickly skimming. We will do unbreakable, which is a defense against mental attacks. Okay, so that also costs 6. And that is a modifier that is automatically inputted onto your character sheet. Okay, so we've spent all our ability points now except 1 for physical. If you ever have a remainder of a non-even ability point, that gets converted into experience, which you can spend after you're done with all your actual character creation. So for PL1, 1 point is worth 5 XP. So I've just marked that up here for now. And we will come back to it once we're finished. So after getting this XP from the leftover ability points, the next thing you would do is generally you're going to attempt to see how much currency points you have. And Heroes and Hardships currency is abstracted by default. It wouldn't make sense for us to say give a specific number of gold, silver, credits, dollars, euros, pounds, whatever for the base game. So we have something we call currency points, and each piece of equipment costs a certain amount of currency points. And the way you determine how many currency points you have at the start of game is probably going to be your first dice roll, which is you're rolling your status skill check, which is a part of influence. So you're going to be rolling 5 dice and keeping 3. So if we go back down to status here and we do this, I should click my token instead. Let's pull myself out here. And then let's do it. So status. So we roll status, look in our chat bar, and wow, what a roll. A 13 explosion, a 14 explosion, and a 17 explosion. 44. That's a lot. So we start with 44 currency points, and you can use those currency points to buy weapons, armor, equipment, different sort of gear, all sorts of things. So in general, that would be the end of character creation. You can go through the 10 steps that are in the core rulebook, and it explains each of these steps along the way, the things you have to do, and how you make your character. And that would be it for creating characters for this tutorial. There's a little bit more to it, but I wanted to stay with the basics of how to do it. So that's it. Hello. Now we're going to talk about combat. Combat in Heroes and Hardships is probably on the simulation side of what you would consider role-playing games to be. However, our combat is very quick, and it takes away a lot of the waiting in between turns. The way we do this is by eliminating the round concept completely. There are no rounds in Heroes and Hardships. And that's why we're going to start with how every combat starts, with initiative. There is an initiative score that will be rolled by each character in combat. So what I'll do is I'm going to select all the tokens that are going to fight, and then we're going to throw it up on the combat track. Okay, so we have them up on the combat track as normal in Foundry. No difference. You are going to see some differences here, and I'll explain those as we go along. In Heroes and Hardships, when you start combat, the first thing you do is roll initiative. This concept of initiative is not any different than most games that have rounds. You roll some dice, and based on your result, the highest person goes first, and the second highest goes second, and so on. However, that's where our initiative ends, and initiative rolled like this is only used in certain circumstances, and I'm going to explain that now. First thing, I'm going to have all these guys roll at the same time. I just go down through here and roll. Okay, so you're going to see some different numbers based on what was rolled. You can see that the value is a 0.44 or a 0.36, a 0.27, a 0.16. The initiative score that they have rolled is the number that's being shown, the actual the positive number, the 44, the 36, the 27, the 16. This is how you start. So the 0 that is leading the initiative is something called your action point total. You are going to spend action points as you progress through a combat, and that total, that first number, is going to go up based on what you did. For instance, if I just do a normal attack action, and there are a lot of actions, both offensively and defensive actions that you can choose from. If you do a normal attack, that costs 3 AP, is what we would call it. So just to show you, that means this guy flips to 3.44 and he goes to the end of the combat tracker. The lowest leading number always goes first. So if there's a 0.36 and there's a 3.43, the 0 always goes first. A 1 goes before a 3, a 2 goes before a 3, etc. This signifies how many AP you have spent. The person who has spent the least amount of AP goes first. If there is a tie, as there is here with the zeros, whoever has the highest initiative goes first. So here we have two people who have spent 0 AP, but one has a 36 initiative and one has a 27 initiative. Therefore, the person with the highest initiative goes first. What this does as a concept is keeps combat very quick. In particular, it makes so that you're not waiting around for your turn forever as you wait the whole round to go and then it's your turn. Typically, your AP is going to stay in similar balance with others, but since the actions are broken down in such a way that you're spending AP to do very specific things, those APs go pretty quick. So what I mean by that is you spend 2 AP for an action, you move to the next person, they spend 2 AP for an action, you go to the next person. If they spend 3 AP for an action and take longer, then those who have spent shorter actions and maybe not done as much go again quicker. So it all evens out in the end. There are some very specific circumstances where someone's AP could get bloated. higher than everyone else's, and they end up waiting a little longer. But even still, in those instances, it is a lot less waiting around than rounds. And if you know the system like any other game, this combat is going to be shorter than most traditional role-playing game combat systems. So we're going to set the knight back down to 0. You can do this in a couple ways. You can do this and just say, oh, -3, and you can change things that way as well as inputting, selecting the text box here and changing it. So knight would go first. Knight is this token here. We're going to have, let's just do a free-for-all for combat, so there's no sides per se. So one of the basics in Heroes and Hardships combat is the move action. And the move action is typically pretty simple. You just move. Before I go there, you see this is set up for a hex grid. And Heroes and Hardships primarily does work on a hex grid. You can not use hexes and just use what's called units of movement. So in that case, you would measure it out however you want to measure it out. You could use, you can use centimeters or inches or whatever measure, distance system that you're using. And you can just say, well, this is a unit. We kept it generic for that very reason, because we don't want to say meters or whatever, or feet if you're talking about actual, what you're looking for in as far as, actual combat would be. But if you're looking at like minis and you're like actually measuring them, you can do all that too. There's no difference. Here we use the hexes. So the movement action costs 1 through 5 AP to complete. Those, the determination of how many AP it costs is how many hexes you move. So very simply, she's going to move here, here. So she moves 2 spaces, and that would be 2 AP. So you can just say add 2. And so she is at 2.43, and she has dropped to the bottom of the initiative track. The next person is the warrior, and the warrior has a little bit more distance to cover. He's 1, 2, 3, 4 away. So because he is this far away, he can do something that's called charge. Charge costs 5 AP to complete, and it lets you move a certain amount of hexes, 3 to 5 hexes. The charge action does have some benefits and some negatives. Number 1, it allows you to move an attack in the same turn, and it allows you to move a good distance in attack. When you're using hexes, it's kind of fuzzy, but it does require a straight line if possible. And this just means you shouldn't be able to zigzag. With units, it's easier to, fix a straight line, but in this case, a straight line as best able in the hexes. Unfortunately, when you do this, your attack suffers from 1 hardship, and you can't do it with certain weapons. Unwieldy and light weapons cannot be used in conjunction with the charge action. I'm not going to get into full details about that, but after the charge, the attacker is unstable, and you lower the attacker's base defense by 5. And if they would do any defensive actions, that also is subjected to a hardship. Both of these last until their next turn. So we're going to charge. It's going to cost 5 AP to move down 1, 2, 3, 4. You can do that. This is going to cost him 5 AP, so we're just going to do that now. So now you see he goes to the end of the line, and now he's going to attack. So now we're going to show you how attacks work in this game. First thing we're going to do is open the character sheet as if we would anyone who's using it. Under the Combats tab, you see that there are attacks, attack modifiers, defenses, and so on and so forth. You can see where your protection is, and there's some things here which we will get into in a moment. This character has a bastard sword. So in Heroes and Hardships, the actual edge of the weapon you're using does matter. So in piercing, this does 2 post-roll modifier damage, and slashing does 4. You might say, well, that doesn't sound like a lot of damage. However, realize that this system is a 1-roll attack. Your attack incorporates the damage and the success of the blow. So you're going to take that success value versus whatever the defense is, subtract the defense from the attack. If it's greater than negative numbers, so if it's 0 or higher, the attack hits. When it hits, you take the remainder of that attack total and add your weapon damage to it. And that is your overall damage. And you would subtract the armor defense as well. And then after all that, you calculate that, and that becomes your total damage. And luckily for us, Foundry does all of that for us. So if I'm the warrior, I'm going to target the battle mage. I just hover over him and hit T. You can see a typical targeting pointer that happens, and then we're going to swing our sword at him. And you click on this little scroll, and it pops up, and now we have our weapon. What we know is because we charged, we need to set a hardship. Okay, we set the hardship, so that's going to come into our roll. We don't mess with anything else currently, and we're going to roll as he's targeted, and we'll show you what happens. Okay, here is the attack. Okay, so our initial attack was a bastard sword, and he has swords 5 under dex 5. That means he's rolling 10 dice initially. In the mods, you see he has a global hardship of 1 hardship. That's what we set. That's from the charge. Now, the rest of the mods are from abilities he has, as we spoke about earlier. Skilled 1 and Weapon Master 1 do different things, and you'll see here the attacks. I'm not going to go into the details of some of that, but just know that the Foundry module is capable of doing a lot of this automatically for you, so you do not have to do the math or understand dice conversions when they happen, because here you have a situation where that happens, and that usually happens when you're rolling more than double your kept dice, which you can't do, so you have to convert those dice into kept dice or a flat modifier. Anyway, not to get into the weeds too much. We see our roll. Our roll is a 46, and we have a modifier of a +8 and a -4 for a 50. So if you look down at the purple, it says your base attack value, which is BAV, and base defense is negative as a 14, and a BSV is 36. So when you attack someone, they can choose to do an active defense, or they can choose to do nothing. If they choose to do nothing, the attack is against the base defense. Okay? In this case, we would not do this because the battle mage is certainly going to defend. So we're going to open him up. And we're assuming that everybody has their weapons out and whatnot. So I'm going to scroll down to defenses. What's he going to do? Is he going to dodge or is he going to parry? Well, let's look at his skills. If I look at his skills, he has a dodge of, dodge is under agility, so he has 0 dodge but 4 agility, and his sword skill is probably much better. His sword skill is a 4 and his dex a 5, so he's going to parry. He's better at that, so he's going to parry. So I would click parry. I need him selected though. Parry. Parry. And so we're just going to roll a normal parry. 44. Okay, that's the new defense. You see it says new defense there. Okay, so instead of the 14, it's a 44. So you're going to see a difference here. So once that happens, the attacker, he must come here and hit his damage. So this is where he rolls damage and calculates the rest. Okay, so you will see enter the BSV from the attack check card or the number it should be after the modification by an active defense. So if you look here, we had a 36 initially, but now we have a new defense of a 44. So what is the total? 50 minus 44 is 6. So we're going to put his base success value was a 6. And we're going to roll that. Okay, so now a new card comes up and shows you some of the things. So the global modifier is a +6. So that was our base success value. So that was what you would do. So your attack minus their defense is what that ended up being. You see +5, that's the location. So if we look at where it hit, if you look down, the location is head. So the hit locations matter, and the hit locations are derived based on your base success value. And so when you hit certain locations, it increases the damage or lowers the damage. Legs and arms decrease it by 3, head increases it by 5. There are alternate rules where you can make that more severe for a headshot, etc. When he attacked, there's no protection on his head, apparently. So if we go over here to the character and look again under combat and we look at head, he has no armor. So nothing is reduced. So he takes 15 points of damage. Well, what does that mean? Well, I'm going to compare it. The first thing I compare it to is the mortality threshold. Is it greater than a 42? No. Then I check the wound level. Is it greater than a 21? No. Then I check the injury level. Is it greater than the injury level of 10? Yes. So what happens? So then this is going to affect him in a certain way. The easiest way I can do this and not worry about having to compute it myself is I can drag this damage to his token or to his character sheet, and it will automatically determine what is happening. So if you look here, it says Battle Mage takes 15 points of damage and suffers an injury, right? Because it's higher than the injury level. So if we look at the Battle Mage now, his character sheet, you see he has 1 injury set. That's -3. Injuries give you a static modifier of -3. So next time he does something, he will have a -3 to his any roll he has while he's injured. Injuries are different than wounds. Injuries are removed typically at the end of a combat. They're nicks, cuts, scrapes, bruises, something that don't impact you for the long term like wounds do. The attack is over, and now we need to do cleanup. So really all we need to do is we're going to go on to the attacker, and we're going to set the charge status effect on him. So charge is set, and now we're going to go look at him just to show how this impacts him if we look at him. So we're going to go to the warrior, and just we're going to look at the combat parts, and you'll see that there's nothing there that's going to necessarily state that. That might be changing later, where it's going to tell you that he charged. But you can go into all items here and kind of see this. See this here. If we look at modifiers, because charge is a modifier, and we look at it, here we go. So his attack, which we've already done, has 1 hardship. So if we would have set this before he attacked, it would have automatically give him the hardship. The -5 to his characteristics, base defense, like we said, and any active defenses, he gets a hardship. So that formula is in there once we set the charge action to him. And we're going to leave that on him until it's his turn again, and then that clears. So afterwards we can click on that and click on T again. That should remove that. and come over to get our actors here. We actually don't need that. We'll go to the counters. Okay, so the warrior is done, and he has an injury. And you'll be able to set this on your tokens to show injuries if you would like, that sort of thing. That's just a basic Foundry thing. So next thing is the battle mage is now up, and he's locked in combat with two people. He's going to do the not so smart thing, and he's going to attack the warrior back because the warrior is now at a disadvantage to defending things because he charged. So we're going to do that, and we're going to do that to bring both those sides up. Okay. So I click on the token, my token, and then I target him with a T. Okay, so I hover over the warrior and hit T. This is standard Foundry stuff, but it helps you show how we implement it as well. So the battle mage, it's his attack. I'll go into combat, and he has a falchion, and he's going to swing it, and he swings it normally, and you can see that the injury is already set. We're just going to do it with no other modifiers placed for me. Okay, so first thing we need to look at is, okay, he has an injury, -3. It's set in the mod here. Here's his roll. Here's his total, 47. So what he rolled, he's got some exploding dice there. He has a 47. It hit the warrior in the torso, and it's 47. And the base defense is 15. Now let's go to the warrior because let's see if his base defense is 15. If I look at his base defense, it says that it is 15. Now, let's make sure that the modifier is working. So if I come in here and I turn off this charge modifier, what's his base defense? His base defense goes up to 20, so it is working. So his base defense is 15. So the warrior is not going to stand there and let him get hit for 32 points of damage. 32 points of damage would really hurt him. If we looked at his characteristics, we know that 32 points of damage would give him a wound because it's above his wound level. So he's going to do a defense, and he's going to parry with his bastard sword, and we will roll that. You can see the modifiers here. We're going to roll. Yes, so perfect. So you see he still has Weapon Master from before. His charge, he takes a hardship from charge, right? So this is what he rolls. His hardship's a 9. So 43 plus 6, that comes from his ability, Weapon Master. Okay. And then a -9 for the hardship for a total of 40. So 40 is much better than 32. So what we're going to do, we come back to the battle mage, click on him again. He's going to click for damage. And we know, enter the BSV from the attack chat card or the number it should be after modifications by an active defense. So if we look down here, what is it? So we have, it used to be a 32. 47 minus 15 is 32. But now he rolls a 40 instead. So that's 25 higher. And you would have a 47 minus a 40. So we're going to put a 7 in here. And then we're going to roll. Okay. So the global modifier is 7. He has some qualities that do certain things, right? The protection. Protection is important because we hit him on the torso, and whatever armor he has subtracts 12 from our attack. We look down here. We look at the total result. It's a 1. Okay. Is 1 above a 58? No. Is 1 above a 29? No. Is 1 above a 14? No. If the damage does not exceed your injury level, then nothing happens. It's considered a nick, a small bruise, something that's not going to harm you at all. And so basically that attack has been faltered, or has been defeated. So the attack was not successful in injuring the warrior. Okay. So what we'll do is we come here. He did a standard attack, we'll say, so that's 3 AP, and we'll do that, and then he goes to the 3 AP line. So you can see he went down, but he did not go down as far as the warrior, because the warrior spent 5 AP to charge. So the warrior, whatever he did, took him longer. And in retaliation, the battle mage swung and is going to be able to attack again before the warrior is able to respond. So that's the benefit and the disadvantage of using, long actions versus short actions. And one thing to keep in mind, APs for actions go from 1 to 5. You can never spend more than 5 AP. You can never spend less than 1. So that is how that works. Now it is the elf archer's turn. And the elf archer, I'm just going to use a ruler just so I can see. It looks like he has a angle to hit him over the barrels, kind of on the side here. So the elf archer is going to attack the knight. And now this is an interesting part, because we're going to talk about ranged combat, which differs slightly from melee combat. So speaking about ranged combat versus melee combat briefly. Melee combat, as we discussed, requires an attack from an attacker, obviously, and they make their attack with their dice pool as usual. The defense comes from either the base defense of the target or their active defense. Active defenses are parrying, blocking, dodging, things like that. There are defensive actions to allow that on the defensive side. Typically, ranged combat does not allow you to make an active defense roll. So there's no way to dodge a gun, a bullet flying at you, or even an arrow, typically. There are some abilities that allow you to do this. They're very cinematic abilities. Also, a shield can potentially block a ranged weapon, and you can use an active defense to block with a shield for an arrow, but it does take a hardship, for instance. But typically, all things considered as a baseline, ranged combat, a target cannot actively defend. Because you cannot actively defend, the first thing that comes into effect is the base defense of the target. The base defense of the target is always a part of their base defense, or as part of their defensive score against that attack. So this would be the base defensive value. You also, when you are at a range, depending on how far away you are from the target and the weapon that you are using, you will take what is called range dice, which happen to be penalty dice like hardships. They work exactly the same way. If you are in point blank range or basically adjacent, then you take no penalties. The further you get away from your target, and the range statistic on the weapon determines how much penalty you take. And it works like so. So if you have a shotgun, for instance, its range is going to be lower than a rifle. And the shotgun, you take the actual range value and calculate it for what is actually close range, what's point blank, what's medium, what's far, what's long, what's extreme. And so each of those range bands, which come out of whatever the range value is of the weapon, determines how far away you are, and as far as a range band goes. So what is close with a pistol might not be the same as what's close with a rifle. A pistol has a shorter range, so you might be 4 hexes or units away, and for a pistol that is medium range, but for a rifle it would be short range, something like that. So it all depends on the actual weapon. And what you have is, like, you have the range bands. Close adds, or short adds 1 penalty dice, medium 2, long 3, extreme 4. So those are additional difficulties that will be added in when you make a shot. So I'm going to open up this elf archer, and we're to the chat bubble. So we're going to go over to his attacks. Here he goes. He has a bow, a normal bow. So we're going to select our target again, and then we're going to do attack. Okay. This pops up and tells us we're at medium range. And so that is going to be 2 penalty dice against us. Penalty dice are the broad term for hardships, or anything that gives you a D10 to subtract from your roll or add to the difficulty, however you want to use it. So let's do the roll. So we select the archer. We tag or target the knight who we're going to shoot with the T button after they're highlighted, and we're going to use the bow. So let's click on the bow. Brings up the roll. You can see that the range dice is medium here. No other things that we need to change specifically, and we'll roll. So you can see the roll here. Okay, so roll. Bow's 2, dex 4. So he's going to be rolling 6 dice and keeping 4. The range is 8. There's no qualities on the weapon that we need to worry about right now. He's getting 2 hardships from the range dice, which is medium. You can see those are rolled right here. That's the 4. So the roll is the top part. The hardships is the second part. The roll is a 19. The hardships is a 4. Your total is 15. Okay. So we have 15 here, and we looked at their base defense is 10. Okay. The knight we'll just say he cannot actively defend. I think the knight does have a shield, so technically they could use that, but for now we're not going to. In this scenario, their base defense is the base attack value of 15 minus their base defense of 10 is 5. Okay. So the base success value ends up being 5. This is a hit to the torso. They are going to have armor there probably. So let's go through it again. The roll is 19. The combination of the 2 penalty dice hardships are 4, so that brings it down to 15. And then their base defense is 10, which brings it down to 5. Now we would roll the damage here, and this is going to actually show us everything. So the BSV we know is 5. We put that in here every time to help the system. It's the only way that it can be done, and we click it. Okay, so now we look in the mods. Okay, +5 global modifier. That is the BSV. Okay, piercing. So that gives us +2 when you basically based on the armor, if it's in place and stuff like that. So I'm not going to get too deep into the qualities, but there's all kinds of things that do stuff like this. Protection is -13, so that's the armor against piercing on their torso. And so if you look at the actual math down here, you have 4 +5 +2 -13. So yeah, the 4 is the damage from the weapon, so 4. The 5 is your global modifier, which is the base success value, and the 2 is the modifier for the weapon quality piercing. and then you subtract it by 13. And then you can see it's a -2. So in this instance, the archer shooting the knight did not hurt him. It would narratively, as I would usually probably describe it, as just ricocheting off the armor and doing no damage. So if we go here to the combat tracker, we see that the I had to do one thing, so let's add this guy back in. We're just going to roll for him, and so he just shot, and so a standard attack is 3. You can actually just type it in there if you want, and then he drops into the turn order at the 3rd slot, and that would bring the knight up again. Now our knight's turn. So I'm not going to go through the whole combat, but I want to show a few other things here. The knight is going to attack the battle mage. It's just he's adjacent. We don't have teams per se on this. So the knight, she will attack the battle mage, and let's open her up. You know, this system uses your typical Foundry shortcuts, so shift and double click on a token will open the character sheet, that sort of thing. So she will target the battle mage, and on her next turn, she's going to use an action called Reckless Attack. Reckless Attack is a 4 AP action, so let's add that here so we can do this way. Okay, see how she goes down to the bottom. So Reckless Attack is similar in charge in a way. However, you have to be engaged with someone to do it. It doesn't include a run or a movement at all. So the attacker gets 3 benefits right off the bat on this melee attack, so it has to be melee. They receive 1 hardship to all defensive actions, as well as -5 to their base defense until they spend AP on an offensive action again. So even if they defend or something, it doesn't matter. They have to do something active, an offensive action, because they're broken up into offensive and defensive action. So Reckless Attack. So let's do that. We're at the combat tab. We are this person, and we're going to select the battle mage, and we're going to do a slashing attack with a longsword. Okay, as you can see here, we're going to put in 3 benefits. So we do that, and it's set, and we will roll. Let me show the chat bar. Okay, he has 3 benefits, which has him rolling 10, keeping 4, which is converted to roll 8, keep 5. So yeah, so it's a clear conversion there. So he hits him in the left leg. The base defense is 14. So if the battle mage doesn't do anything, he's going to get hit for 24 base success, or his base success value is going to be 24 versus that. So the battle mage thinks he can do better than a 14, so he's going to do an active defense. And I didn't show this earlier, but when you do an active defense, you those active defenses cost AP as well. In this case, he's going to try to parry. So if he, well, let's see, would he dodge or parry? Let's look. So his dodge is 0, so he's definitely going to parry. So he's going to try to parry. Under defenses, you see there is a parry option. So he's going to roll parry. Have to parry against this, I guess. So he's going to parry with the falchion. I just need to. Who am I? I'm this guy, right? Okay, parry. So his parry skill, he has 1 injury. Okay, let's roll his parry. So his new defense is 42. So you can see that he rolled 5, kept 5, pretty impressive. His roll was a 45, and then -3 for the injury, which puts him at 42. If we look at the BAV of 38, which is the the rolled amount, and versus 30 or 42, the 42 is higher than the 38, which is an automatic miss. There's no reason to do any more math, and so that's it. So that would be that. So that would be a miss on that reckless attack, because the knight did this, did a reckless attack. It is easy to figure that out. So we're going to assign a reckless attack token icon, which is a status effect. So if we go in here and we look at the knight and we look at combat, and I'm just going to just to show you, we'll do a attack, and we'll see that the reckless attack should, oh, actually we need to do a defense, sorry. So we'll do dodge or block, it doesn't really matter. So if we pick that guy and we do this, you're attacking to, okay, so I'm going to roll it, and you can see the reckless attack has a hardship there. Okay, so it's actually applying that. And the base defense will also change if we went in there and changed it. So we go back here. We already set the knight's reckless attack. Now we're going to set the battle mage's parry. So he goes up 1 as well. So him having to parry takes 1 AP. That puts us back to the elf archer. So question might be, well, man, the warrior hasn't went for a while, and that's because very specifically he used a very, very expensive AP spend. So his action was very expensive. It's 5 AP, the highest you can go, because you can only go from 1 to 5. So in that, sometimes when I mentioned it earlier, sometimes you can get pretty far away from other people. It doesn't happen a ton, but in this case it did, because at the very beginning other people are using shorter actions and he used a larger action. So it put him a little ahead of everyone else, so he has to wait just a little bit. But in general, you see, oh, the elf archer just went, he's going to go again. The knight went, the battle mage is going to go again. It's pretty quick. And so the elf archer is going to aim this time. Let's say he aims. So in here, there should be a status effect of aim. If I can, oh, they're behind the thing here. Let's do this. And there should be aim. Okay. So he's aiming for that one. Aim. He's only so with aim you can choose. You can aim for 1 or 5 or anything between. So he aims. So this is where you kind of look at the AP tracker and see, where you are. Let's say he's worried about the knight primarily, because the knight is closest. So he's going to use 2 AP on that. So let's do this. So aim 2 AP. Okay. So he's used 2 AP and he's down to 5. Still lets him go before the knight, so he chooses wisely. He also has a lower initiative, so he doesn't want to spend 3 and be tied, because if he's tied with the knight, then he goes after the knight in this case, because the knight's initiative is higher. Okay, so the battle mage is up now, and he's being attacked by some guy who's charging, some guy who's reckless attacking. So he is going to attack the person. He's just going to attack the charger, we'll say. So let's attack him. Let me get that guy back up. Okay, right there. And he's going to swing with a falchion. And I did, so you have to do it after. Click. Okay, there we go. So he still has injury, no problem. Nothing else. He's going to attack this guy. Okay, so he attacks, and his total is a 25 after the base defense value is applied. The warrior can decide to roll for defense, and maybe that's a good idea for him, because it might be better than 15 plus. He will have a hardship though, so it's kind of a gamble. So let's see what he does. He's gonna roll a parry. So to do that, let's set our APs from everybody. So the Battle Mage just did a standard attack, we'll say. So that went in there. So you see he drops down. And then the Warrior is going to parry. So that's 1 additional. And that makes him go down to 6. Okay. So now the Warrior is going to parry. So we go down to defenses. He uses his Bastard Sword to parry. He rolls like so. And his new defense is 58. You see that. So it keeps track even, oh, I'm, doing a defense after an attack was rolled. That means you probably want a new defense, right? So the new defense is 58 instead of 15. That's quite a bit higher. You see he had a really good roll on this die. He rolled 10s twice and an 8. There is a charge hardship, so that is in play. And his other things, he has a weapon master ability that helps him too. So hardship was 3, not really that impactful, and so his new defense was 58, which completely blocks this attack. Okay, charge is still in play until it is his turn. So we go and look who's next. And it's Elf Archer again, who has been aiming twice. So he's been aiming for 2 AP, which gives him 2 benefits. Okay, so he's here again. He's going to target the knight again, and he is going to roll his... So this archer is going to shoot the knight with 2 aims. So we've targeted our target with the T button, and we're going to roll. So we shoot. So we click this button, and you see nothing is set here, so we're going to add 2 benefits. On this one, we do have a little automation to work on for aim, but they're going to attack, and here we go. So the benefits are rolled. What did I do? Oh yeah, right there. Benefits are there. 2 hardships from the distance. So the hit for 26, as you can see. So pretty good roll here. The range dice roll is not too bad. Hits the left arm. BSV is 26. Can't defend because it's a ranged attack. So we're going to have to just go straight to damage. So what was the BSV? The BSV was 26. And you have to always click out of these fields. This is a Foundry thing. When you're in a field, you change it, you have to click out. Okay, here we go. So 26 is the base success value. Base success value. Then the +2 is for piercing. -3 is for location because it hit the arm. And -13 from the armor soak. So we have a total of 16. So what's 16 do this guy? Boom. He gets an injury. So I drag the damage onto this character. If you go to their characteristics and you look at their injury level, it's 11. Wound level is 22. So not quite enough to wound them, but enough to give them injury. Okay. So now we're going to add this the 3 to this archer because that's a standard attack. Now the knight is up after getting shot in the arm by this archer. We should remove the aim. Okay, so they are still having an issue with this battle mage, and they will attack this battle mage. So let's click there and target here and open this character sheet. So they're going to do a rushed attack. I'm purposely just choosing some different actions that show you kind of what happens. So a rushed attack is basically a standard attack, except you do it in 2 AP instead of 3, and you get a hardship for that. Okay, so they are going to attack, and then we are going to select the rushed attack back over here. So the knight is going to have So it loses the reckless attack and gets rushed attack. Okay. So they are going to attack this guy with a swing of their longsword, and we will do it automatically. So rushed attack, you can see there's a hardship applied. You can see where that comes from. They have an injury from just taking that arrow. They rolled very well. Roll of a 50 and minus a 12. So 38 is what we have. And in the end, you have 24. So the battle mage is going to go. The battle mage is going to, let's see what they're, so if I was the battle mage, I'd look and say, oh, that would give me a wound, so let's try to not let that happen, because he only has a wound level of 21. So the battle mage, let's try to defend, so he's going to try to parry. So anything above a 14 is going to help him as far as parrying. So let's do that. I'll have to select myself and roll. So we'll roll as normal. Okay, so he rolled a 45. So a 45 instead of a 14. That 45 is greater than their BAV roll, which is a 38, so that was parried. Okay, so they parried the rushed attack from the knight. So we come here. The knight did a rushed attack, and a rushed attack is 2 AP, so we do that. And the battle mage parried, which is 1 AP. So now the warrior's up again. Okay, so we can take the rushed attack off because that does not linger. And so this warrior had charged before, but now whatever he does will reset that charge, the penalties that come along with that. So what we do now is we'll remove charge from this character. Let's see. Right here, and we can just remove that, and they'll take all that penalties off. And like for instance, he had 15 base defense before, now he has 20 because that's gone. And it is his turn, and so he is going to do a let's do a reckless attack for him as well. So that's 4. Another way you can just type 1, 2, 3, 4, hit that. So he's going to be he's way up at 10 now, but he's going to get a good attack here. So he targets him. So reckless attack with his bastard sword, he gets 3 benefits. And roll. So his base success value is 29. Okay, you can look at all these modifiers here. So he gets 29. That would definitely give the battle mage a wound, so he is not going to just sit there and take it. He's going to attempt to parry, which he has been doing quite well. So now his AP is up 1 as well. So what you see is you can kind of get whittled down by continuing to parry, as like it simulates people continue attacking you, you focusing your attention on defense instead of offense type of thing. So we'll do the battle mage. We'll select him, and we will parry with his falchion, and he does. New defense 73. Man, this guy is rolling like crazy. He rolled a 35 on 1 die. Wow. Well, 73 is obviously higher than the 43 that was against him, so he parries. So he parries the warrior's reckless attack. And let's set reckless attack up on him. Reckless attack. So now he has the negative modifiers that reckless attack provide. Who's next? Knight is next again. So let's say the knight wants to move away. So they would move here. What can happen is the battle mage can do an opportunity attack if someone moves out of a threatened space without protecting themselves, and just to move out of that space does not protect themselves. So the battle mage can do an opportunity attack as a defensive action. So it's like almost an interrupt. Okay, so they start to move away, and the battle mage targets them. This costs 3 AP as a defensive action, so let's move it up to 3. So then they go to 12. And they attack, and opportunity attacks are essentially a normal attack as far as that goes, except they take a hardship. So he's going to take a hardship on this attack. We'll put the hardship in here. Okay, and we'll roll. Okay, this time he is rolling a 51, and the base defense is a 10. So that would be a total BSV of 41. When this happens, the target is in trouble because the target absolutely cannot, use an active defense while they're moving. They've already committed they're basically in the middle of their offensive action, and so you can't slot in a defensive action in the middle of their offensive action. So they're moving, and what happens is what happens. And so the BSV is a 41, so we are going to roll damage up here, and we know we're going to put a 41 right here. Okay, and we're going to roll it. All right. So if we look at everything, we have a 41 plus a 2 minus a 3 minus an 18. Okay, so the plus 2 is for the slashing quality. The minus 3 is for the location as they hit the arm, and the minus 18 is for his plate armor. So he takes 26 damage. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag the 26 onto the token, and he takes 26 damage and suffers a wound. Make a falter roll. The attack was mortal or with mortal danger, so also suffer 1 injury. So the knight, if we look at the knight, and let's do that. We look at the knight, his wound level is 22. He was hit by 26 points of damage. Okay, so that triggers a wound. So you'll see on his actual character sheet a couple things that happen because of that automatically. Number one, he takes a wound hardship. So anytime you take a wound, you do take a wound hardship. He also took another injury. You see there's 2 injuries there. We know that that is a -6 is 2 injuries. So he took an injury which happened here in addition to the wound because he was hit with a mortal quality of some sort. So that really hurt him pretty badly. A falter roll is something that you can or cannot do if you set your games to not use them. Falter rules are basically a stunning type of thing that happens once you are injured to that degree. So what happens is the person who must make a falter roll rolls that type of roll to stay on their feet. And you can find the falter rolls down here under falter, death, and insanity save rolls. So we'll roll the falter. Okay, we got to make sure we have the right person. Okay, sometimes you have to. There. Okay, so he's going to roll a falter roll. Yes, 2 injuries. Falter rolls are kind of serious in the fact that basically what it is it's a stamina roll, and you're trying to beat the damage that you took. So he needs to beat a 26. Now the problem is under falter roll, he has to roll. He has 2 injuries and a wound hardship that both are going to impact him. So it's going to drop his roll -6 and a -1d10. Okay, so let's roll it. So he rolled a 53. He's fine. You can see that the wound level was a 22, and the injury is a -6, and the hardship was there. And he rolled a 46, plus 16, and -9 for the hardship. The plus 16 there, which is not described, is on a falter roll under normal circumstances, you add your wound level. So if we look at his wound level under combat, That's a 22, and then you subtract the 6, and you get a 16. So this is he rolled a 53. That's much higher than the 26 damage he took. So he does not falter. He stays on his feet. So when you take a wound, it's more than just you take this wound hardship. Okay, if you look down here under wounds, we'll open it up. Oops. So you see this was generated for him. So he takes a superficial arm wound, and there's a table you roll on based on how much damage you took versus your wound level. So this was not, particularly impactful to him. So we know it's set up. Okay, so right now we have a wound hardship for this. But after that combat ends, you remove the wound hardship and you apply these actual wound effects. So let's see what that would be in this case. So you click apply wound, no effect. So in some instances, the wound that you carry on, and this is forever until they're healed, they have no effect because they're usually superficial, not very impactful. So in that case, let's change it. Let's change this to terrible, just so we can get a better idea. Probably what I need to do is delete this first, so that we can delete it and we can generate a new one in a different way. So actually, I'll just drag this to him again, to the knight. So the same thing kind of happens. It says, hey, you took that. So I'm going to remove the extra things that it added, since we're just trying to test this wound out. So it says superficial arm wound again. So we're going to change this. Let's just change it to terrible. Let's just pop this up to 50 just for now. And let's click applied and click applied. Let's try. I'm sorry. Click that off and then do that. Sorry. Okay. So now it automatically selects it, and it says now you have a minor wound that impacts agility and dexterity. Minor wounds, what do they do? Okay, so you can find out by looking at our next roll. So let's see. So you would typically not apply this in combat as well as having the wound hardship. You can determine as a GM which you want to do at the time. So in combat, the wound hardship is basically a placeholder for the wound, and this is to speed up play in combat, where you don't have to figure out this what kind of wound it is on the spot. Now, using a VTT, it makes it very easy. You could easily do this, and it would be a little bit more realistic than having the wound hardship first, then the wound hardship come off after combat, and then the wound effects being applied. So once we have this here, let's say that we want to not use this wound hardship here for the rest of combat. We're just going to actually use whatever this is. So we drag this on, and this is a modifier. It's going to show exactly what it does. So it gives a -3 to all skills that are under agility, and -3 that are under dexterity. So that's what that does. And as you get higher wound levels, you're going to have more impacts, and that is because moderate is going to impact your attribute, subtracting it by 1, and then so on and so forth. So that's what that does. Let's not apply it currently. So I'm going to come here just to back out a little bit, and then you can delete it there. And you can not have it applied, so let's just turn it off. Make sure it's not there under modifiers. Modifiers only. So this is a little bit advanced working with the sheet. You can see all the kind of items that you have. So it's not there. Good. So let's give them one hardship again. Yeah, that's how a wound actually is applied to your character. And these wounds are things that must be healed either naturally or by a healer, or they turn into some sort of permanent disability for your character. In combat, typically you're going to see wound hardships a lot. So he has a wound hardship here instead. So that was him. So the very injured knight now with a wound hardship and -6 injuries is going to try to hit somebody. And so what you will notice is going to become even harder and harder as he is now injured. So he moved. That's what he was doing originally. He moved here, so he still gets the finish as long as he is up and active. He finishes what he wants to do. So he moved 1, 2, 3, 4. So even though he got just absolutely annihilated, he moves 4 spaces to come over here and crowd this archer. Okay, so the elf archer is up, and he is in a point blank range with the knight. So he does not want to be in the point blank range of the knight, and he doesn't want to move away foolishly like the knight just moved away. So what's he going to do to make sure this doesn't happen? So he's going to use the action called disengage, and he's going to move as far away from the knight as he can, so 5 AP. Before he is able to disengage, so if he successfully is able to disengage from an engaged attacker like this knight, he will not be subject to an opportunity attack. However, he has to pass a opposed roll with the person he's trying to get away from, and that opposed roll is acrobatics versus perception. So the acrobatics is from the person trying to disengage, and the perception is from the person trying to hit them, or maybe hit them. So if I bring up the archer again, he's going to make an acrobatics roll. He's okay at acrobatics, so potentially he has enough to get away. And I am not. What's going on? So okay, there we go. So he's going to do acrobatics roll. He rolls. So he gets a 18, not a great roll. The knight is pretty hurt though, so hopefully that is going to help him get away. So he's going to make a perception skill check. Not that great at it, but he's also going to have a lot of negative modifiers, which he does. So we have an 18 versus a 6 here. So all the penalties that are stacking up on the knight doesn't allow him to react in time for the elf to be able to escape. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I was here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. So he moves 5 away with the disengage action. The knight is unable to attack him. So let's just do it this way, and we'll bring that up to 13. And there we go. So this continues on. And I'm not going to go through every little bit of this. I'm just going to describe, how are people defeated. So since we don't have hit points, it works a little differently. So there's a few different ways. Number one is you're hit so hard by an attack that you can instantly die. So I'm just going to go kind of out of order just to show that on the system itself. Let's do it between the warrior and the battle mage. So let me just take this reckless attack off. We'll have the warrior attack the battle mage. Okay, so he's going to attack, and I'm just going to nerf some things just to make sure that this happens. Okay, so select him, tag him. We're going to do a slashing attack. So the easiest way to make sure this happens is just give him a mod of 100. Okay. So obviously this is not realistic, but here we go. So he rolls. He has a BSV of 154, pretty good. We're just going to say he doesn't defend, and we're going to put the 100 BSV in here, whatever. So now he has 94 damage. So we're going to drag that on to the battle mage and see what happens. So the battle mage takes 94 damage and dies. Why? Anytime you take more than double your mortality threshold, you die instantly. So that's the first way you can die, taking a massive amount of damage from one blow. So that's so if you look at the mortality threshold is 42. Anytime you take double the mortality threshold, you die. So if he would take over 84 damage, he dies immediately. So that's what happens here. Okay. So there's no reason to compute anything else. He just dies. Okay. So what happens if he takes more than the mortality threshold, but not more than double the mortality threshold? So that's another question. So let's do this all over again. Okay. So we're just going to click the damage here, and we'll just say it's 50. Okay. And we'll roll that. So now it says, oh, it's 44 damage. That's above his mortality threshold, but not double. So we're going to drag it onto him. Okay, so now he makes a death roll to only suffer a wound, and then he makes a falter roll if he succeeds. So the death roll is in combat for them. So you roll a death roll, which is essentially a resilience roll plus your wound level, and it has to beat how much damage you took. So if I roll this, I need to actually select the right guy. So make a death roll. We did no modifiers per se, and you roll it. So you got a 52. So a 52 is higher than a 44. Therefore, he makes a falter roll. And he only suffered a wound, so we need you see that wound pop up here. But he's alive, okay? If we did a falter roll, it goes into that falter roll, process just like normal. If he succeeds it, he lives to fight another day. It doesn't fall down. Okay, so now he has one wound. Let's give him a wound that we've already taken before. So let's give him another wound that that will, let's just say he takes another wound. Okay, I don't want to berate this point too much. So he's got another wound. So he has 2 wound hardships, and his wound threshold is also 2. So at this point, if he takes another wound, he has to make death rolls as well. So let's do this again. Okay, let's not do the 44, but let's do let's take the warrior, let's tag him again, and let's attack him with the warrior, which is not even up. Okay, bring him up. So he just does a bastard sword attack. Bastard sword attack. Sucks there. We'll just do a modifier of, I don't know, 40. So that rolls that. And we got a 44. So 44, we roll the slashing damage. We just put the 44 in here for now. Okay, so we have 35. Perfect. So we're going to drag a 35 over to the character sheet of the guy taking damage. So he says, make a falter roll. Let's say if we did that, that's great. Wound threshold exceeded, so suffers an injury instead, so that it gets converted, and you make a death roll. So he makes another death roll. So he would do this. We need to select him first. So he needs to make a death roll. And he makes another one, and 57 is higher than the 35, so he stays on his feet. And this continues until he fails a death roll in some way, shape, or form, or he's either more than double his wound threshold, which means he dies automatically, or he is hit by a massive shot that is more than double his mortality threshold. So that's how adversary characters die. So adversary characters can be NPC builds that are the same as the PC, or they're built in several ways. They're adversary, they are foes, and they are minions. And foes and minions die easier. A minion will die after taking any damage. A foe will die after taking a couple wounds. So that's how that works as far as life and death in combat. So obviously there's some more things that get into the weeds of combat that I didn't touch on here, but you should with this tutorial be able to determine how combat generally works. Initiative, the AP tracker, the attacks and defenses, and how those all kind of blend together. And actually, once everybody at the table knows the system pretty well, creates a pretty fast experience, particularly with how often you act versus just the round turn of most games. So this is how combat actually works. Next, I would like to talk about magic. This will be our last main section in this tutorial. And just so you know at this point, there will be also smaller tutorials released for specific things in the system. Anyway, for magic itself, magic has two magic systems. Heroes and Hardships have two magic systems. One's considered traditional magic. This is what you consider a wizard, a mage, a sorcerer, things like that. And superpowers. Superpowers could be, a superhero type of power. It could be some sort of innate power to a ancestry or a person's being, and they both work similarly but a little different. So when you're doing character creation, you're going to either buy superpowers or magic user, and so depending on which one you pick, your manifestations will work differently. So manifestations is what you might call a spell in other systems. We call spells manifestations that are cast within the magic user, the traditional magic system. We call powers manifestations that are activated in the superpower system. When I say that these things work similarly, they both use the same manifestations. So if we look at this battle mage here, he has energy attack, magical shield, and telekinesis. Those are manifestations. These manifestations can be used with either system. So let's start with traditional magic. So traditional magic works similarly to ranged combat. So in the combat section, if you have read it or listened to the tutorial on that, know that active defenses are not a thing. So there is no active defense for preventing a traditional magic spell to target you. Instead, it uses your magic defense, which is similar to your base defense, only calculated in a different way. And it uses spell dice. And spell dice are the same as, range dice in a way. It's just how you know how many of those that you have as a penalty. And it's not necessarily range. So let's open a spell, but also the manifestation, and kind of get to the guts of what's in there. Each manifestation belongs to a school, and each school has a governing skill. So, for instance, the magic school of energy attack is Cosmos, and the governing skill of Cosmos is Harness. So whenever you cast a spell or activate a power that comes from Cosmos, you need to use the Harness skill. Okay. Powers and skills differ in a couple ways. So traditional magic, you're going to have all the same things. Between the two schools, there's a potency, there is a duration, there is a range, there is a targets. Those are your valid categories of what makes up a spell or a power, the manifestation. The potency is what it does. That's very variable. And the duration is how long it lasts, and the range is how far away it is, and the targets are how many things that it can touch. Since we're doing traditional magic, resistance is not a thing for these spells. So you can't see the actual spell here, but I'm going to show it now. So energy attack is described as a wave of energy does damage to a target. Energy attack always strikes the torso. So this could be fire, it could be ice, it could be some sort of bludgeoning type of energy. It could be lightning even. It is up for the GM to decide how it looks. Valid effects are the categories that can be increased in I don't want to use the word potency because it's already used, but it increases those things. So increased potency means it does something greater. Increased range is a distance thing. Increased targets is multiple targets. So if we look through our manifestation here, base potency 5 other damage. So it does 5 damage off the top. That's what its potency does. Here it shows what the base of it is and what it is per level. And what do I mean per level? So any spell can have valid effects increased. So if I wanted to increase potency to level 2, then I would do 10 damage instead of 5 damage. And this can be done for any valid effect to increase the actual level of the spell. So you get the first level 1 for free, or you get all level 1s for free, and then you add to those level 1s. They're all considered level 1 spell. Level 1 spells roll 1 spell dice. The spell dice, like I mentioned before, is like a range dice. So based on what level the spell is how many hardships you're going to roll to actually be able to cast that spell. So in this example, if we went up to base level 2 for potency, that would make it right away a level 2 spell. Duration is instant; it happens immediately. Base range is touch, so you actually have to walk up and be adjacent to someone to do this. You don't have to roll for touching them, but you have to be enough where you can touch them. And you can increase that as well. And the level increase is plus 2 hexa units per level. Base targets is 1, and it's plus 1 target per level. So let's say we want to do 10 damage and we want to do it from 2 hexes or units away. So we can do that. So that increases some of our levels, right? So potency would be level 2. That's for 10. And range would be level 2 for a level 3 spell. And why is it a level 3 spell? You count all the level 1s. That's level 1. Anything above that increases it. So you go to a level 2, that's a level 2 spell. You go to a level 2 someplace else, that's a level 3 spell. So you get everything as a 1 baseline, and anything above that for each individual category brings it up 1. So this is a level 3 spell. You notice that level 3 power is not marked. It's a level 3 spell. Okay, that's the way it's set. So we come back, and just for this, we're going to say he's here, and we're going to target this guy, and we're going to roll this energy attack. Okay, it asks us here. 2 potency, 2 range, 1 target. You can change these. So this is the thing about traditional magic. I can try any combination of valid effects. I can take it to the limit and do something that is extremely unlikely to be successful, but I can still try. Okay, so we're going to roll, and we're going to look at the results. Okay, so he rolled a 44. That's nothing big. We're going to talk about this in a minute. So here it tells you what's happening. So right there. So you have 1 increase in potency, 1 increase in range. And his spell dice is, there are 3 dice because it's a level 3 spell. So that gets subtracted from your total. So here he rolled 44. He subtracted 20. Okay. Next, he subtracted the magic defense. So this is like a base defense, and so as it's exactly as a ranged attack would be, and his total is a 14. 0 dice exploded. So he would do so at this point, his base defense is 14, and this damage is actually, we said it was plus 10, so the damage is actually 24 in this. And this, we need to do a little bit more work so that I can drag a damage over with spells that do damage. But so that's 24 damage right there. Okay, and we get that extra 10 from the actual spell potency, which we said a level 2 potency was 10 damage. So it is just like a ranged attack. So there is that. So one thing that we should be aware of is the thing called surges. And surges by default are on, if you will, in Heroes and Hardships. A GM that does not want to use them does not have to. So if we look at our fate score, he has the 3 focus. And you will see he also has a ability that makes it look like he has 1 rank more in focus than he actually does. So here's the focus. Anytime you roll in your skill check, any dice that explode get counted towards your focus. If more than more dice explode than your focus, you surge. If more dice explode on your spell dice than you have focus, your spell explodes. This is because you can have a surge. You can have a surge on your offensive attack and on the difficulty of it. So you basically are casting a spell that is too powerful if it explodes on your roll. If it explodes on the difficulty was too much for you to handle, and then there was a surge. So surges are generally bad things. Surges work very similar to wounds do. And both of those things, as you see how high they are compared to some threshold, and then you roll on a table, and that table tells you how bad the surge was or how bad the wound was. So that's how surges work. So you might be asking, how does the difficulty work when you are casting a spell with either no target, the target is yourself, or the target is a willing participant, like you're trying to heal them or something, or buff them in some way? It works exactly the same, except there is, instead of your base defense or magic defense of a target that you're trying to hit, instead of that, you have a set difficulty, which is challenging. plus your spell dice. So if you are bumping spell dice up 3 levels, you're still going to roll 3d10 and subtract that from your total. That is the baseline. You can alter that challenging down to mundane. So in a PL1 situation, that would be a 20 difficulty to a 10 difficulty. So you can do that as a GM to kind of fashion how difficult you want your spellcasting to be. So that's traditional magic in a nutshell, how it works. And now we'll talk about superpowers. So as I mentioned before, superpowers and traditional magic use the same manifestations. There's no difference in a manifestation for a superpower and traditional magic. They're just used differently. So if we go back over to the magic of our battle mage here, and let's pick energy attack, let's just say it is a power. When you buy a power, and you buy spells and powers with experience points. I believe I discussed this in character creation, but they're both cost 4 ability points, and they come out of the general pool. So you're going to buy that power. When you buy a spell, you get the spell. You get access to the spell. You can alter it however you want on the fly for extra spell dice. Superpowers does not work that way. First of all, when you are activating a power, there are no spell dice. It is not a thing. You do not roll spell dice for superpowers. Instead, when you buy the power, you buy all level advancements at that time with ability points. So if you have energy attack, which normally costs 4, you wanted to increase it to potency 2 and range 2, you would pay for those levels with extra ability points. And when you use them in game, you can never try to attempt to cast them at a higher level. You could cast them at a lower level if you wanted, but you can never increase the potency to 3, or increase the range to 3, or increase the targets to 2. You cannot do that. You buy what you have, or you buy the power as designed at the time. You can increase those with ability points later that you might get through XP, but you can't. They're less flexible. Whereas traditional magic, you can use what you need. Basically, if you need a Hail Mary shot, you can increase, your damage potency to 10. Whatever, and give it a whirl. And if it works, then you're going to hit the thing for 50 damage plus whatever you roll above a 0, which might not be that great. There might be diminishing returns, but you can try it. And usually you have some sort of less extreme version of that, but you do risk. So if I had to compare them high level, traditional magic is more flexible. It is typically more difficult and less costly, whereas a power is less flexible, more reliable to hit, and easier to get off. So yeah, that's the differences. When you target someone, you do not use their base defense anymore. Instead, you are using their magic, you're not using their magic defense. You're using their active defense. Now, if just like in melee combat, if you attack and it is not higher than their base defense, they don't need to do anything. You miss. When I say base defense in this context, I'm talking about their mental defense or magic defense stat, which is different than base defense, but it acts the same way. So your magic defense is not necessarily, it's not going to combine with some spell dice instead. Instead, the defender is going to have to make a resilience, whatever the skill check is, and make that based on what the resilience is. So the powers have a resilience of dodge. So in order to evade this attack, if it's higher than his mental or magic defense, the target should roll dodge. And that will tell you how, what your total success value is when you take the dodge and subtract it from the attacking roll. So that's the differences between powers and traditional magic. And you can very easily see that once you learn combat and you understand the differences between melee combat, ranged combat, how you suffer wounds, that sort of thing, how it completely makes learning magic much easier. So powers is very much like a melee attack. Traditional magic is very much like a ranged attack, and surges work very similarly to how wounds work. And so you can surge with a power. It is more difficult, much more difficult, because first of all, you're only rolling the attack. You're not rolling a difficulty, so you can only surge one way. And the surge tables are a little more forgiving. The worst possible parts of a surge are removed. So you can't, just to give you a level set for traditional magic, your worst surge is usually everyone dies. Now that's very difficult to come by. You have to roll on the table and get basically a 3 from 3d10. It depends on how severe the surge is, but you would have to roll 3. Sometimes that's impossible, but sometimes it's not, and so that could happen. And one of the playtests definitely had this happen. So if this is too hardcore of a magic system, GMs can do away with surges altogether. They can make them less impactful. They can make them more impactful. So all these optional ways to tweak the system are in the GM's hands, and they can fashion the game that they want to fashion. And this goes back to other things like combat as well. Falter rolls can be completely disregarded, or they can be easier, or they can be harder. The same with death rolls. They can be easier, they can be harder. So you can add more of a simulationist bent by not doing wound hardships, but instead just doing wounds and activating them immediately, which is very easy in a VTT. So this has been the tutorial for the main parts of the game. There's many things that I didn't get into, certain corner cases with rules, vehicle combat, which maybe is important for your game. I will do a separate vehicle combat as a vehicle tutorial with combat included at some point. With vehicle creation, there's vehicle creation rules as if they were character creation rules. So all that's there. Our bestiary section is as verbose as a universal role-playing game can be, but there are clear rules of creating your own adversaries, which is something that many other games fail miserably to do, and particularly universal games like Heroes and Hardships and other games that don't come with these rules. They just assume that you're going to be able to figure out it on your own. We give you distinct rules on how to create these characters at variable powers. So how strong they are, not just power levels. So, but also between power levels. So you can create an adversary at PL 1, 2, 3. You'll know how to do it. You'll know how to create arch nemesis, which are more powerful than the PCs at power level 1, 2, 3. You'll be able to do foes, which are your kind of run-of-the-mill things that you might fight at every power level, and then minions at every power level. And then, you can go between, those rules and make them better or worse in that realm that they sit in. So, a power level 1 minion could fight a power level 2 character, and then they're really weak, right? Or opposites. You want to kind of do a power level 3 minion versus a power level 2 character. It can be a little harder minion to take care of. So you can tweak things that way. And there's just a lot to talk about with Heroes and Hardships. We really think it is one of the most flexible games there is, with being a traditional game with set rules and not just a narrative game where you can kind of do what you want. But there are so many optional rules in here, ways to tweak the system to balance it for your needs and your settings and the games you want to play. You should always play your way, and we try to give you the most tools as we can to play either highly simulationist games or much less so, but still in a traditional framework of gaming. So, I hope this tutorial has been helpful for you. And this is Jason Duff with Earl of Fife Games, and I appreciate all your support, your interest, and happy gaming.